Hi, I'm Ted Haftegabber, founder and producer of Live Talks Los Angeles. Thanks for joining us. Since we started over a decade ago, we have brought you hundreds of conversations with storytellers, writers, actors, musicians, humorists, chefs, and thought leaders in business and science. You can watch and hear most of these in our YouTube channel and our podcast. For details, visit livetalksla.org. And now, here's the show you've tuned in to see.
Hi there. All right.
Yeah, I gotta go back. I'll get you later.
Pandemonium. Mayhem. All right. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming out tonight. It's really great to see people again. You know, I've been doing this book tour for a week, and I've gotten to see these audiences, and people are so happy to be out doing stuff again. New York is alive, Jack.
Oh, is it really?
People are at restaurants, they're walking around, they're saying hi, they're getting, you know, they're not even pissed off yet. That's how great it is. And so it's really great to see all your faces, and I hope you have a good time and feel safe being in a group tonight. It's been great. And I wanted to say, you know, I have to say this, you know, the world is still in a crazy, horrible place because of this situation in Russia. And I know that coming out and talking about this book feels a little strange to me and to all of us, because it's just my showbiz stories. It's not anything important. It's not even that personal, although it is overall kind of a personal thing. But it just isn't. It isn't my story of my childhood. It's, and I just wanted to say, you know, I think we all know that we have to acknowledge that it's insignificant, but that maybe there's something kind of diverting and fun for that for a moment to talk about it and think about it. So that's all. And then I want to thank my friend Jack Black for doing this. It's very nice of him. It's really the greatest. The fact that any excuse to talk to Jack is a joy for me, so I'll write another fucking book just to do it. And last but not least, if you do make a recording of this on your phone, will you just keep it to yourself or your family and not post it? I'd appreciate that very much. I'd like to just do an event that's just for you and us here tonight. So don't record it, and you know what? Don't remember it.
Yeah. Well said, Bob.
Live Talks water. The only way you can get it is you got to have an event.
Oh, it's so good.
And only the speakers get the Live Talks.
It comes
water.
from the mountains of the springs of Los Angeles. So, I don't know, a lot of you might be thinking, why Jack Black? Why is Jack Black interviewing Bob Odenkirk tonight? What's the connection? What's the point? A lot of you may not know that me and Bob go way back to the 90s. And you actually gave me one of my big breaks in show business when you had my band, Tenacious D.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, good. All right, good. Some disciples in the audience. Okay. So anyways, you saw my band, my comedy band, and you gave us a shot to open, well, it was like a little TV show for HBO, because you had a show called Mr. Show on HBO.
Right.
And for some reason, you saw it in your heart. You thought, let's give these kids a break to have a little show on HBO also. You didn't have to do that.
I loved it so much. I was such a fan right away. I mean, David saw you guys at Al's Bar.
Yeah.
And had you as a guest performance on our sketch show that came before Mr. Show. And Jack, you, and there have been a few people in my life. I've gotten to see a lot of people when they're starting their careers. Tim and Eric and Chris Farley and a lot of great people who, you know, they just have a magic. And it's always, I would always laugh at people who would like see Farley and go, Farley kids, let me just tell you, I think he's got something. It's like, yeah, you know, it's like, really? I mean, who doesn't think that? It's just, it's so fucking screamingly obvious. But you and your band certainly had that quality of just absolutely, for sure, the greatest thing ever. And I'll never forget. I mean, the thing that was amazing about it was you were riffing on a certain kind of rock music, but you were celebrating it and making fun of it. And that's just such a magical thing to do. And other people have done that. We were just talking about Ween, who kind of do that same thing. Like their songs, you know, they're obviously doing you know, they do like a Jimmy Buffett song. They do a, you know,
they got a country album.
Yeah, but it's also a great song.
Yeah.
You know, on its own. So it's a really special thing and super cool.
We opened for Ween a million years ago out in Red Rocks in.
Wow.
Yeah. That's
Was that
my
cool?
My favorite outdoor venue in the United States in Colorado. Red Rocks, gorgeous. It's a place where U2 played their famous music video. You see that one, the Sunday Bloody Sunday? That live video from the 80s on MTV. Anyways, we digress. The point is, we go way back. And I'm not the only one to benefit from your, like, picking out a face in the crowd, you know, because there's a lot of young up-and-comers back in the day that you would say, you were great, and you would help people and shine a light on them. And anyways, that's why I'm here, to pay you back a little bit, because when you call, I have to just say yes, no matter what it is, because I feel like I owe you, because after that little HBO gig, I started getting gigs, got High Fidelity, got School of Rock, got things cooking, and then it was, but I never forgot my roots.
Yeah.
Never forgot the Bobby O. Hooked me up early on.
Thanks, buddy. Well, your talent is undeniable, so I was just somebody who slowed you down a little bit.
But I was thinking about your early days before we met. You were, I found this out just in researching for tonight, that you were, you had 6 brothers and sisters? Is that right?
Yeah, 7 kids all together.
That's a big-ass family.
It is.
That's like almost 8 is enough.
Absolutely.
But it's more than Brady Bunch.
7 kids.
It's right in betwixt those 2 TV shows.
And the reason I write about it, among many reasons, but I write about they were my first audience. And I would start to tell the kids a story, because they were mostly younger than me. My brother Steve's older, but they're all the rest younger. And I would start to tell a story about somebody I saw in school or something, and then I would get up at the kitchen table and I would go across the room, and so everybody had good sight lines. I was very aware of sight lines. Sight lines and audio, all that aspect of the show is, I knew instinctually. They need to be able to see. I'm thinking about these people right now. You know, while I'm talking here, I'm thinking about them. And I would do the little performance for them, and it was really my first show. And then school, I did sketches for class in junior high. And it was a great fucking thing. I mean, it really stuck with me, and I got laughs, and they would have me do the sketch, and I did like a bunch of these, different ones. And they would have me go to another classroom, and now go down to another classroom and do it again. I'd rehearse it, and so I don't know if there's any teachers here, but you make things happen if you're a teacher. You really can make a kid's world open up, and so those teachers did, and that really got me started. But it took me a long time.
Are you talking about acting teachers or comedy?
No, history teachers, social science, and I think English teachers were all in one pod, and this group of teachers, these 3 teachers, would let me do, for a project, they would let me do a show. Other people would write essays, but they had said, you can write a little show.
Were they like, look, you're failing this class. We're going to let you do a little show to give you a passing grade.
Jack, I was fucking around.
Yeah.
And I was in the back of the class joking around and making fun and making people laugh. And I think they did see that and say, why don't you do, you're so fucking funny, write a little thing about Abraham Lincoln.
That's a good teacher.
The Chicago Fire.
Yeah.
And then I was like, that's great. And so that really got me going. But I interviewed you for this book because you were one of the mysteries. I had some mysteries from my life that I always wondered about, and this was my excuse to figure them out. And I wondered where your sense of your talents came from. And we talked, and you told me that great story about the school play you did, and the phone call you got.
Yeah.
Could you share that with everybody? They're going to read the book.
But before I share that, I just want to say that I share with you that class clowniness. I had that too. I like to put on a show. And I had a teacher who also didn't squash my class clown and told me I could do a scene from a play in English class. I could do a scene from a play and kind of boost up my credits because I was definitely going to fail the class. So yeah, I'd also like to give a shout out to any teachers out there that might be watching this podcast. Try not to just smash and destroy your class clowns. Try to harness that energy.
Channel.
And use it for a force of good. But yeah, when I was in high school, I was fortunate enough to go to this great school for the arts and sciences, a little private school. I only went there for 11th and 12th grade. But there was a kid in the class, Maximilian Brooks. And he was into theater a little bit here and there, but he wasn't in this one play, but his mom came, the famous, incredible Anne Bancroft. And so he was the son of Anne Bancroft and Mel Brooks, the most incredible parents ever. And she didn't have to come because he wasn't in this play that we were doing. We were doing The Miracle Worker. But she was in The Miracle Worker, the movie. So when she heard we were doing it, she was like, I'm going to come down. I'm going to come down and talk to the kids. And she came backstage to give us a little pep talk. And, I was in this, movie. And she told us a little bit about the author and what it meant to her. And we were like, oh, cool. And then we did the show. And we were inspired by her pep talk. And I was really feeling it. I remember when she was there, I felt like I really hit it out of the park. And I was playing, not a huge part, but it was like the brother of the deaf, dumb, and blind girl. I can't even remember her name. Someone help me. Helen Keller. I think my character's name was like Larry Keller or something. And then we did it. You asked me to tell this story. I didn't prepare it. And then I went home. My parents were so proud of me. The show was great. And when we got home, there was a message on the Codaphone, the old
the old little
answering
tiny
machine
cassette.
on tape, and it was Anne Bancroft. And she said, Jack, born to do it. Born to do it. I have to say, I didn't tell you before, but that part, the writer was so upset because people thought it was a thankless role. Nobody thought it was a well-written part. but I called him to tell him that I just saw that part played well. Whatever. I don't even know if it's true. But what she was saying meant so much to me. It really landed, and I listened to it 100 times. And she gave me a little boost of confidence that I needed at a really important juncture.
That is so cool, man.
Gave me some rocket boosters for later in life.
Right. And I start the book by talking about this guy, Del Close, who I ran into. And he became a very well-known teacher and improvisational guru. He was very happy to be the guru.
Emphasis on the guru, I noticed.
Absolutely. He loved it. And I just ran into him in the street, and I didn't even know what he looked like. I only had seen his name at the end of a program once, a theater program, years ago, years before. And then I'd seen his name at the end of the credits at Saturday Night Live, where he was an acting coach, because they were having such trouble getting the cast to gel, and he had this somewhat of a reputation within the community in Chicago. And they had, this was the cast with Eddie Murphy and Julia Louis-Dreyfus. And it was just, they couldn't get the show to come together, even though they had Eddie kicking ass. They just were doing anything they could. And so they had Del come in. Anyway, I'd seen his name. I was in a bookstore in Chicago. It was fucking freezing. It was February. And the girl behind the counter was saying, Del, we don't have this book, and this one's coming in. And I thought, Del, did I see this name, Del Close? I said, are you Del Close? Yeah. I go, can I interview you? Because I had just interviewed Joyce Sloan. I don't know what I was expecting, or I didn't know what he'd done. I mean, it's so crazy that I did this. And he goes, I'd be a perfect guy to interview me. I just quit Second City yesterday. And I just quit cocaine and heroin a few weeks ago. And I just left Saturday Night Live a few weeks ago. So, yeah, I'm starting things new. And so we walked down the street, went into a bar. He had a Bloody Mary, talking, walked into his little apartment, which had no window in the door. It's February in Chicago.
Freezing.
Dude, fucking, an octagonal door window, about that big, and the wind is like a fucking jet engine, like 20 below. And he's got the heat inside cranked up. Oh, and so this cold, super cold wind's coming in, but then this warm heat would come in, and then the super cold wind. And he sits down with me, and he just talks for 2 hours. He's just talking about everything. He was talking about being in an off-Broadway show with Larry Hagman called The Nervous Set, about beatniks. He's talking about touring with a medicine show, which when he left Kansas, he was in this show that they would show a horror film, and they would do this weird Dr. Something's House of Murder, and they would do this little stage show in country towns. And he talked about teaching at Second City. He talked about the committee. He's rambling around, and I'm just this kid from Naperville who doesn't know any of these references, and I'm just sitting there like this, and he keeps offering me a roach. And it's this fucking really dirty brown turd roach. And I keep saying no, and he's smoking it, and I just loved hearing him ramble. And when it was done, after 2 hours, I walk out and I go, I'm going to try to do this. I'm going to try to make it in show business. I have to. And I don't know, the weirdest thing is that it's just very hard to define why that was encouraging to me, why that ramble. He didn't say, it's a great thing. I mean, obviously he had a shitty apartment, and he had a lot of books, and I remember thinking, that's great. And he said, I go, where'd you get how you have so many books? And he goes, when I quit cocaine and heroin, I said, all the money I spent on drugs, I'm going to spend only on books. And he had stacked up stacks of books. And he'd only been off drugs for a few months, not that long. And, this rambling monologue just was so inspiring to me. It made it seem like, you can have all these different experiences over time. You can still be excited about yourself and life. He was still like talking about, next week I'm doing a show at Cross Current. I don't know what it'll be, but we're going to use the newspaper, and we're going to do monologues and sketches too. I think it's going to come together at the end. I don't know if we're going to plan. It's going to be, you know, and he was excited about what he was going to do. He was 49. In the book, I say he was 50. I didn't do the math right on his birthday, but I thought he was 65.
Yeah.
I mean, he was a fucking old man, but, you know, he did all these drugs. But it just made me think, it's just something you can do with your life. There will be good things that you've heard of at the end of it, and lots of projects you've never heard of, but they were all interesting. They all kept your brain alive. I felt like I'd never met any older person who was talking about what they were going to do next week and excitedly talking about it. I felt like I'd never seen that. I'd never, ever seen it. And anyway, I also thought, and I say it in the book, but I really did think, and if I did everything he did and didn't spend the drug money, how much money would I have? Could he? I bet you could afford a better apartment.
Yeah. So you wanted to take the good of his force, his
I mean, in the end,
energy,
Jack,
without all of that poison.
Yeah. I mean, in the end, I was genuinely more like him than not like him in my interest and excitement about different offbeat shit, you know,
right.
fringe stuff.
In your taste.
In my taste.
In art.
And what I want to do next.
Right.
Like, what do you want to do next is always like pretty different from what I did last.
Yeah.
And then that makes me happy.
But you wanted to have a functional window on your door and not the heroin.
Absolutely.
I loved that part of the book. Great book, by the way. If you get a chance, you should read comedy, drama. Because I've heard so much about Del Close from, you know, other people that had touched his magic. You know, Amy Poehler, lots of people from SNL, all the way back to the beginning. You hear about how they came through his doors at some point. John Belushi, Bill Murray, all of them. So even though he was a hot mess in some ways, and that he was on like an express train straight to death, you know, it sounds like.
You know,
super reckless and
Jack, he was also a good actor.
Right.
And he did a few things in theater in Chicago. He always got great notices. And one time in a class, we were just doing our little improv game, whatever he told us to do, but he got up and started doing the scene with the kids. And he was so fucking good. And I saw, and you felt it. You went like, oh, that guy's a professional. Like, I think what we're doing is like cleverness, you know, like trying to be cute and clever. And that guy's acting. It was such a thing to see up close. And, you know, it's hard to, he's one of those people that lots of people, as you say, talk about him, and it's kind of hard to believe that he's real or that he could have been a person who was so fucked up, like Pasquesi. I interviewed Dave Pasquesi in the book, and Pasquesi said, here's a guy who can't operate a phone. Del was a mess. But he was just like talking about the artistic process. He had really strong hopes and beliefs about what you could do. And it was like, you know the movie My Dinner with Andre? It's like that walking around all day long. It's like if those two guys were always talking and you could just go stand near them. I love that movie, and I love the conversation about acting and stretching yourself and pushing the limits and discovering things. And so it's very strange how he was inspiring. But he was, and not just to me, lots of people.
There's a few times in this book where you talk about people like that are incredible forces of creativity, but they also have this darker side, like Chris Farley.
Yeah.
You had a real intense relationship with him. A lot of people don't know. I mean, everybody knows how funny and incredible Chris Farley was. Huge hero of mine. But you don't know that there was someone in the shadows, like, working with him. You wrote that scene, the motivational speaker down by the river.
Yeah.
One of the greatest things of all time on SNL. Like, it's right up there with the fucking more cowbell, whatever you want to say. It's one of the funniest things ever on TV. And there you were, and I just sometimes wonder what that must have been like for you in the shadows, in the wings, watching him get a fucking thunderous roar of cheers and love and laughter.
The greatest.
But
oh no.
Not a tiny.
No,
Of you
not
just
at
like
all.
you. So it was never just like a seething darkness where like.
No, not at all.
When will I get my
Not at all.
time in the sun?
Not at all. For real, Jack, not at all. Because, you know, I approached this whole thing wanting to be a writer. I mean, you know, my heroes in the business when I was young were, I loved everybody in Python, and where the ideas were equal to the performance, you know. Python had great performers in it. Those guys are really fun to watch. And Cleese was the best, you know. But the other guys are more writer-performers. They're great fun to watch, but they're not sort of primarily performers. They're halves and half, energy-wise. And that was my hero, and Chris Guest and Albert Brooks.
Hell yeah.
Those were like my comedy heroes, right? And those guys are all fun to watch, but they're not...
And Steve Martin. Did you say Steve Martin?
Steve Martin. Steve Martin would probably be more of a, you know, he's a great writer, but performance-wise, he was incredibly present and stuff. But, so that was what I was hoping to get to happen. So I actually probably got off more on being the writer of that piece than I would have if I'd somehow written a piece that was that good for myself. I love that I'd written that piece. And my daughter asked me, what was the most fun you ever had doing what you do? And I, no question at all, said, I did this sketch with Chris Farley at Second City. We did it 7 times a week. And every single time I did it was the most fun I've ever had in show business. Because he was this close to you doing it on stage, and he wouldn't quit until you laughed. And the other thing, Jack, and this is going to sound like I am saying I envied this, I didn't. We weren't famous on the stage of Second City.
Right.
You know, they knew Second City was funny, and they would go there, but none of the people on the stage were famous, or the audience didn't know you before they came into the theater. But that sketch, you watched. There's 350 people, and you watched Chris Farley enter this sketch. And by the time he was done, that group of people knew his name and loved him forever.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a thing to experience every single night. Like, this guy's going to come out here, he's going to be an unknown actor. When he finishes in 5 minutes, he's going to be someone people go, I love Chris Farley. And they're always going to love him the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
And that's just something to see. I mean, it was really, and it was a confluence of Chris had done Matt Foley as a coach who's yelling at people. And then I saw him do that. We did improv one night. He did, you know, just, kids, you're doing drugs and blah, blah, blah. We did an anti-drug presentation, improvised. And I just took the energy and the character that I'd seen, and I wrote a story to it. And I also, Tony Robbins cassettes were big at the moment. And so Tony Robbins, in his first round of cassettes, which I got, talked about being like a 300-pound teenager or something. I don't know. He had some backstory that was like, do you know what I used to be? And I thought, wow, what if about a guy who just goes, look at me now. You want to be like me? You know, so it was just taking that idea, which is kind of a good, really great idea for a success guru, and then just painting this picture of his life. And we had a river that ran through my hometown of Naperville, and we had a bunch of stoners who hung out over the bridge by the river. And so I just pictured that place and this motivational speaker who was using himself. And I wrote that story, and the thing is, I've written so many sketches in my life, and that was one of, I can name the ones that I wrote, that we did the way I wrote them. And there's only like 5 of them. Yeah. Manson Lassie, The Great Fallujah, There's only 3 that I can think of now. Matt Foley. But there's like 5 of them that I wrote.
Did you write Loose Change on Mr. Show?
Yeah, with David.
Fucking great.
Halvesies. That's
Oh
halvesies.
my God.
Halvesies.
Halvesies count. Halvesies count. You know, you wrote one for me. You've written a lot of them for me, actually. But the first time I went on, after we did Tenacious D on Mr. Show on HBO, I got the call to be on Conan O'Brien, my first late night talk show appearance, and I called you and I was like, I'm nervous, I've never done a talk show before. I want to do like a skit, I want to do something special. I don't want to just go out and talk. I want to like have a pre-taped thing so that I can relax and just know I got some comedy in the bank.
Right.
And you were like, all right, what do you want to do? And we talked about it a little bit, and I was like, well, I think it would be funny to do something about how, because at the time Andy Richter, his sidekick, was talking about leaving. He was going to leave, he was going on his own to do some other stuff. And I thought, it'd be really funny if I make a pitch to replace him as Conan's new sidekick, and how great I'm going to be. And you laughed and you wrote out a skit and lyrics to a song, the sidekick song. And I wrote the music to the song.
Wow.
And we did it, and it fucking killed. And, and really, throughout the years, if I ever called you, like, I'm in a pinch, I need like a comedy bit, you would just be like, done. And you would just like whip it out.
Jack,
on the Tenacious D albums, you like cranked out tons of...
Well, I gotta say, I still love flutes and trombones.
Flutes and trombones, dude.
It's just so stupid. It's just so stupid.
Yes.
Flutes and Trombones is from the second amazing Tenacious D album.
Oh man, yeah, because because
you called me and I was in my car driving, and I go, I have an idea.
Yeah.
And it's so fucking stupid. Like, how did I have that idea when I was driving? That's so dumb. Here's the idea, if I got it right. Kyle's in the studio laying down tracks at 2 a.m. Jack shows up. What the hell are you doing here? The album's done. What are you laying in? You shouldn't be changing anything. And you, what do you have behind your back?
What's that behind your back? Yeah.
Kyle's got a trombone. He's laying in trombone.
And I just lay into him.
What
I'm
the
so
fuck?
furious. Yeah.
You changed the music. You're putting a fucking trombone in. We talked about it. No trombone.
And then he says.
And then he's like, I'm sorry. I shouldn't. I know. No. Hey, wait a second. What are you doing here at 2 a.m.?
Nothing. I just came here to check on.
What do you got in your pocket?
Nothing. That's nothing in my pocket.
Yeah,
it's a flute. I got a flute.
and then they fight, and all you hear is amongst grunts and groans, and you're playing the instruments.
Yes.
What? It's just so stupid.
It's classic.
It's the fucking
It was
best.
the magical stupidity that we needed, that sweet ingredient. But the point is, throughout the years, I know you've done it for lots of people, not just me, but you'll be in the shadows. And you like that. You like the collab.
Absolutely. Jack, this whole thing with drama, there's a reason it's comedy, 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 drama.
Yeah.
It's because, first of all, I knew if I'm going to write my story of show business, it's all going to mostly comedy. It's what I thought about, worked on, tried at. And I was just, but I'm more famous as a dramatic actor, like by a million miles. Like there's loads of people who know me from Breaking Bad, Nobody, Better Call Saul, and I was just afraid of people in the airport going, I need a light reading for this fucking 6-hour flight. I'm going to Milan. I have to go to Milan.
Yeah.
18-hour flight. I need a book with him. It's not going to weigh my brain down. Well, this actor, I like him. He's great. He's in Better Call Saul, and he's a great dramatic actor. I want to hear about his time at Juilliard. I want to dig into that. Early days in New York theater. And then, what's this shit about Saturday Night Live? And who the fuck is Chicago comedy and Mr. Show? What that? And I was really wanting to warn those people to chill the fuck out. That is not what my life has been about. I know that's how you know me, but it's not what my brain has been occupied with for most of my life.
Well, the great thing about the book is how you get into the deep nooks and crannies of all of the phases of your life. And it is astounding the way that you went from one thing to the next. And really, that first chapter, when it's all SNL and the fucking, you got those magic moments that you touched with Chris Farley and other people that you wrote when you were in the shadows, that could have been enough. But then you got out of there, and it was just the beginning, and then you go over to Mr. Show, and you have your own show that you create, and it's hilarious and underground, and it's like, I wanted to ask you also,
yeah.
Were you there when Nirvana was on Saturday Night Live?
I was not.
You were gone already.
But you know what I was there for?
What?
Neil Young.
Neil Young, yeah.
That's a famous, it is. That's a famous music performance on SNL.
Was it Keep on Rockin' in the Free World?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was standing there watching him do that. And
yeah.
I watched every band. You know, that was one of the great aspects of the show, was to sit and watch the band.
You must have just missed Nirvana, though, because you guys
were
like, it was around the same time.
I left before
because you were
they
two
came.
ships passing in the night.
Yeah. But let me tell you something.
Yeah.
That Neil Young performance, go home and watch it tonight. It's one of the great
yes.
live performances ever. And Neil was reinventing himself. It was fucking incredible. You know, the crazy thing, Jack, is we're watching people every week do a show, and they're excited to be there. They're happy to be there. They want to do a good job. And then this guy comes, and he just makes everything else look like a rehearsal. I mean, he tore it up.
Yeah.
It was something to see. It just shows you how much in a live show your spirit matters. You know, your presence of your spirit matters, because he brought everything.
Yeah.
It was great.
Still rocking.
Here's a funny story that I don't tell in the book. The Pogues were there, and I was there. I would always go on Thursday for the dress rehearsal of the band, because it's just a great time to see the band, you know, fucking around. And Shane McGowan comes in, and he's wearing pajamas in New York, dirty pajamas, walking, you know, through the streets of New York. And he's in the studio, and he's at the craft service table, and he's sticking some food in his mouth. And he wanders into the studio, and we had a set that was a fake bar. And I was like, ah. He's not such a cartoon of a human being that he's going to go over there and start drinking the fake liquor, is he? Because he knows it's a TV show. He's not such a fantasy creature that he thinks that a fake set of a bar is a real bar. I got to watch this. And nobody's talking to him or anything. And he wanders into the studio, and he sees the fake bar. It's not even set up. It's at an angle. And he goes right over to it. And he grabs the bottles, and he goes, "Can we drink this?" It was so great. Something to chew over.
I feel like you were getting uncomfortable with me talking about how awesome you are, so you told the story about that other band.
Well, I mean, Jack, I just, you know.
No. I'm taking over.
All right.
So then you do Mr. Show, and the reason I asked if you saw Nirvana, because I always felt like Mr. Show was like the Nirvana of alternative comedy in the 90s. It was like this underground scene that was fucking changing shit and not playing by the usual rules and saying, fuck SNL. And we're doing it our way, this other way, with other influences. And it was so smart and funny and weird. And then, after that chapter, that should have definitely been enough. You should have been able to write the book and call it a career. But then there's a long stretch, a dark period, if you will. Not a dark period, but like a wander through the forest.
Yeah.
Your 10 years of searching.
Yeah.
But like cool, creative things that you're trying in there that don't like land with like hit results.
Right.
But then you come out of that and you got Breaking Bad, which is like the best show ever on television. And there you are. That should have been enough. But then they get you over here. And people don't really talk about, I thought just as good as Breaking Bad was your turn in Fargo, the TV show. Fucking great performance. That character is,
great.
I loved that character. Was he a sheriff?
He was the deputy,
he was a deputy sheriff.
And then became the sheriff.
And then, so that fucking shit, because then you get your own spin-off show.
Yeah.
Which is crushing. Can't wait to see the final season coming soon.
I can't wait to
Better
see
Call Saul.
April 18th.
Which goes deeper than I'd ever seen you go before, you know, as a character, and over the course of the seasons, just watching you do this character study and get into the nooks and crannies of this human being.
Right.
And Michael McKean, your brother,
so great,
so good. And I didn't know, but I was like, you know, this had to come from Mr. Show somehow or other. Vince Gilligan must have loved Mr. And sure enough,
he did.
I read the book and I found out, he was a deep fan because.
The crazy thing that I even got Saul because of Mr. Show. I thought it was because of Stevie Grant on Larry Sanders because they're similar guys.
Yeah.
But no, it was because they would sit around in the writer's room and watch Mr. Show.
Yeah.
And then they had this lawyer character and thought, yeah, he could do it. Which, I mean, fucking that's crazy that they gave me that shot. And that, you know, I was totally prepared to show up in Albuquerque and be told, yeah, no, you can't do it. No. And I would have been like, okay, well, I mean, thanks for letting me try, you know. I would have been okay with it. I mean, you know, the 10 years of struggle or whatever there was where I wasn't landing, like shows weren't getting on the air, but I did a lot of projects and I got paid for a lot of them, and they were exciting, and that was the part I really also wanted to, and I did include, although I'll tell you, Jack, I probably include about half the things that didn't work. Because it just became too much. As I was trying to write about all of them, there was a point where it's like, Jesus Christ, I mean, this is a show I can't see anywhere. I can't show it to you. You have to take my word for it that we made it, that it was however good it was. You know, judging stuff that doesn't get shown to the audience, to anyone, is some of those things I would argue are really good. They really are. They just didn't get a chance, and that happens. People make pilots, and they're good, and it doesn't fit in the network's vision of what they are this year. And how, you know, you want to be able to argue for those things and say, we did it, and I promise you it was good, and here's why. Because I think, you know, I do think about, this is all based on, you know, Dell's random lecture to me, is if I want to share with a young person my career, I want them to see that, you know, I did a project that was good and you've never seen it, and no one can see it. It can't legally be shown anywhere because there's all kinds of laws about, you know, union work that was done, and you can't just show it. You have to have a release for everybody who was in there. And that's why pilots don't get shown in America that don't work, you know, or that don't get the chance. And then some of those things were just turds. But and you have to say that too, and that one just was bad.
Yeah.
But I needed to share those projects as well, you know.
Yeah, I do sometimes think about that, like all the incredible people that are out there that just never get a chance to tell their stories or put on a show.
Right.
That, yeah, that's
I mean,
just...
it's a part of show business, and to some extent, you know, the lesson is simply that you have to like doing the work enough that if it doesn't go over, you still have a good time doing it, and it was a worthy way of spending your time. Because, you know, there's so many variables in the business that you can't make sure you have a chance to show everybody what you can do.
But then...
I know. Don't say it. Don't say it.
Because that should have been enough. But then, here's the way I imagine it went down. You were like, fuck, man, the world is my oyster, kind of. I got a hit show. I'm the lead of the show. My agent's telling me, what do you want to do? Anything you want. You tell me. I'll go make it happen for you. And you're like, God, you know what?
Leave me alone.
Larry's show business, my agent, you know what I want? I have this crazy idea. I should be a fucking action hero. I know it doesn't make sense. Done. I'm going to get you together with this other guy. How did nobody come to pass? I know that you had a big part of that. You built it from the ground. You were there developing it from the beginning, right? From the ground.
Thank you, my friend.
Okay, here.
Yeah, he's just encouraging us.
Okay.
Totally cool. I was riding my bike in Albuquerque, which is what I would do to de-stress from, 30 pages of dialogue a week, where Saul just talks the whole fucking time. And I would ride my bike for hours, Jack. I would ride for 4 or 5 hours sometimes. And there's 400 miles of bike trails in Albuquerque.
Wow.
Serious. And I got a text from my brother-in-law, who was in China, Zhuangzhou. And it was a screen grab of Better Call Saul. It was on his TV. And I was like, fuck me. I remember stopping and thinking, they're watching me in China. And they're watching me. I knew Europe loves the show, and Russia loves the show. And I'm like, China? What can I do that could play? It just got me thinking, what could I do that could play all around the world? A movie that I could be the lead of. And, Liam Neeson's doing these action movies, and he's like 65. And I'm like 53 at the time, and I'm thinking, this is going to take a couple years to mount. I'm in decent shape. I'm riding my bike for 4 hours.
Yeah.
But really, I'm thinking, how did they know me there? Because I always think of myself as Mr. Show guy and, comedy guy. But how do they know me, the bigger audience? They've never seen Mr. Show. They've never seen any of the comedy that I've done. They know me as an earnest guy who's sharing his heart, who's getting knocked down over and over, but emotionally knocked down and pushed back. And then never quits, and then thinks, what else? What's another way I can make my way to get the thing I want, which is respect and love from his brother and from his girlfriend and the world, the wider world. Jimmy McGill just wants people to see what he can do and go, you're great, you're fucking great. He just wants that, and he can't get it. He can't get it for a variety of reasons. He can't get it, and he can't get it from the people he loves. And I thought, wow, that's kind of an action star, that desire to succeed and win the day and keep getting knocked down, but not quitting, coming back. And it's just an action character, but without the fighting. So all I got to do is learn the fighting, which is not easy to do. And I wanted to do my own fighting, which is crazy because you don't have to. There's stuntmen. But I wanted to do it because I love Jackie Chan, and he does his own fighting, And so I called Mark Provostero, who's here tonight. Mark, thanks for being here. I called Mark. I'm ready to get laughed at. I was on my bike still. And I call him and I go, I
You
have
wearing
a
one of those
crazy
funny helmets?
idea. You know, my brother-in-law sent me this screen grab, and do you think I could do an action movie? I think the character I play kind of is an action character, just not fighting, but everything else you need in that kind of character, and that's how they know me. And he says, I think you might be right, which is crazy, right? I expect him to go like, calm down, finish your ride, take a shower, sleep for a couple days. You're obviously in a bad place. And so we started just kicking it around. And we met with some writing teams, great writers, and they all had stories that were like what I would write, which was kind of like an indie version of an action movie. So very complex and apologetic about the violence and justifying everything that he does. And I'm like, no, I want pure genre, no apology, and no irony, and no, I'm just kidding. I'm Bob Odenkirk. I don't mean it. I can't do this. No excuses. Nothing to save my ass, by the way. I'm going to fucking go out there. I'm going to mean it. And I might just look like the biggest idiot with the worst midlife crisis that he's acting out on the fucking Cineplex screen. And I'm going to take that chance because who gives a shit? I mean, who gives a shit? You know, I don't want to, look, when things don't work out, when you act in something and it doesn't work, and you never know how a movie or a TV show is going to actually end up. You know, you can have the best people, the best script, and it just doesn't come together. And it's just there's luck in the end that has to come through for you too. But one of the things I think I learned from the 10 years of failure is that people believe what you say happened to a great extent. So if you make something and it doesn't work, obviously it's good if you acknowledge like it didn't work. You know, I just wish it had done better. But if you go, oh well, we gave it our shot, best shot, it didn't work. I have a great idea. I have a great new idea. I think it's fucking, I mean, it might be the best thing I ever did. They'll go, oh, what is it? What is it? You know, and if you go, no one likes me anymore. I suck. I'm terrible. They're going to go, yeah, nobody likes me. He's not good. He's not good anymore. Like, they believe you, whatever you say. I mean, it's a fucking business where people go, I'm a director. You're 23. You've never done anything. No, I'm a director. That's all I am. It's my gift. Especially if you're young. They'll go like, he's a director. You want to meet a director? I met a director today. You know, it's just, we do make it up as we go along. And that goes for failure, too, and how you deal with it. I mean, again, it helps not to be deluded, totally. But, so in other words, I was thinking, if this thing doesn't work, it's going to suck. I'm going to look stupid. But I'm still just going to go in a corner and write some funny thing and sell it to somebody somewhere and just go, tough shit, it didn't work. I gave it my best shot. And try not to let it bog me down, you know? And as it turned out, it worked.
It worked so well.
It's crazy.
It's one of the greatest action films of all time. It's so satisfying. It's so satisfying on a deep, deep level because it taps into wish fulfillment.
Yeah.
That so many people have that. And
well, it came from my real life. I had 2 break-ins, and I had those feelings inside me that I wanted to act out and wanted to play out.
Oh, man.
And so it's, you know, I knew I had that to work with, too, as a performer.
You could draw on that.
Yeah, for sure, yeah. I'm very thankful that it worked out, and I had a great time making the action sequences and great time learning about screen fighting, which is really hard and totally so different than anything I ever did. And really pushed me and was a challenge. But
Is screen fighting basically like fighting? Like,
no, any real fighter would say no.
okay.
It's but you take stuff from boxing. Well, you missed, but yeah. But sort of like the moves of it and the training of it is like taking jujitsu and karate, and they'll tell you as you're doing. I'm sure you've done some of it, Jack. But I was in it. Haven't you done some?
I mean, I was Kung Fu Panda, but that was all a cartoon.
Little thing.
Hey, I feel like they're going to give me the lights soon.
Oh, yeah, we gotta wrap her up.
Real quick. I didn't know whether or not to ask you this question because I love the book. As I said, all these stories we talked about tonight are deeper in the book with all the nooks and crannies. Even though you're saying there's some nooks and crannies that didn't make it in the book, maybe there'll be another book.
No.
And I hear there's talk of another nobody, that there might be more nobody to be told.
I think so.
I hope so.
I hope so.
And I also feel like, because if you look at your whole career, there's been so many times when you're like, okay, that's got to be enough. It's never going to be enough, I realize. As long as you're kicking, you're going to be looking for that next thing. And beyond that sequel, and I bet you there's something else you're probably cooking up that you're not even telling us about right now. What you got cooking up there, Bob?
It's a Tenacious D tribute band.
Dude, I heard you and David Cross of Mr. Show fame might be cooking up a little something.
We're working on a show. Me and David Cross and my brother Bill Odenkirk, a Mr. Show writer, are writing a show called Guru Nation for Paramount Plus. So look for that. And it's going to be pure funny, crazy comedy, and I can't wait to do it. And now to wrap up, I have some audience questions that I wrote.
Wait, we're not going to ask the audience for any questions?
I don't trust
You're going
them.
to give them the questions?
I have 3 questions that I need you to ask me. Come over here. There's a microphone. I'm going to hand him. You're number 1. Who's number 2? Step up. You're number 2. Talking to the mic. Who's number 3? There's number 3, right there. I'm really curious what they have to ask after everything that they've heard tonight.
Okay. Hi, Jack. Hi, Bob.
Hi.
I haven't read your book, and I don't plan to. But I wanted to congratulate you on writing it and ask simply this. My favorite kind of writing is when someone overuses cliched terms and phrases, or even just reuses words too often in close proximity. Does your book use this technique?
Yes. Yes. Perceptive. What a nice question.
Great question.
Thank you.
Do you hate writing or yourself more?
Do I hate writing or myself more? I have an honest answer to that smart-ass question. Why you? Honestly, before my heart attack, I would have said myself. But you know, the heart attack made me just feel so appreciative of my life and the people in my life, everyone around me, I hope you feel the same way. You know, a lot of times when people have an incident like that, they have something they need to fix in their life, and they go, from now on, I'm going to do this. And I just felt, as the weeks went by and I thought about that incident and heard about it from all the people I love who were there, just how lucky I am and how I need to appreciate my world and the people in it more. So I hate writing more now. Yeah, go ahead.
Do you like meatloaf?
That is not what you want to ask me.
I am a young person.
Let me sleep on it. Baby, baby, let me sleep on it. Let me sleep on it. I'll give you an answer in the morning. Sorry. I had to give one for Meatloaf.
I want to hear this. Start your question again.
I am a young person. I want to fail a lot at my favorite thing to do. Will your book show me how to do that? If so, could you crystallize your approach to repetitive failure so I can just skim the book? Also, can you recommend a good book to read?
So yeah, my book will teach you how to fail at the thing you love the most by just sticking to it and never quitting. And I can recommend a good book. My friend Noah Hawley, who wrote Fargo, has a novel out called Anthem that's fucking great. You should check it out. And so yeah, there's a good book to read. Okay, to finish up, Jack, I want to read one thing from my previous book. I don't know if you have a load of hooey, but it's one of my, it's got a lot of fun stuff in it, and I wanted to read this to say goodnight to you tonight. And thank you for coming. Thanks so much. And Jack, thank you again.
My pleasure.
Thank you, my friend.
Thank you, my friend.
This is called If I Had My Life to Live Over Again. If I had my life to live over, I'd dare to make more mistakes. I'd risk more, go out on a limb. I'd take longer walks, feed the ducks in the park. I'd wear thicker socks and eat more ice cream. More ice cream and a better brand of ice cream with a higher fat count. It's gourmet ice cream. In fact, I would stick mostly to gelato. I would notice every bird and give it a name, and I'd write that name in a tiny notebook. But let me return to the issue of ice cream. I wouldn't confine myself to national brands. I would travel the countryside eating the regional equivalent of premium ice cream. And if I were eating ice cream with you, I would steal yours when you looked away. If you never looked away, I would badger you. Are you going to finish that? Are you done? I'll finish it if you don't, until you gave in. For, you see, I have been one of those people who eats an entire box of light ice cream with fewer calories, who orders 3 scoops of ice cream and says, make one of them sorbet, who offers to share the death by chocolate. I have even eaten an entire box of dietetic ice cream sandwiches in one sitting. What was I thinking? I should have just eaten the regular kind of ice cream sandwiches. I have even eaten popsicles when there was a Haagen-Dazs nearby. I did that twice. I remember, believe me. But if I had to do it all over again, I would eat even more, and I can't restate this enough, a higher fat count. In fact, forget that shit I said at the top about walking in the park and the bird naming. If I had my life to live over again, I would focus on the getting and eating of ice cream. Who's this for? All right. Thank you so much, Jack. Thanks for all the compliment.